So now we're going to have a rusty metal surface for this. So I'm going to go ahead and close that. I already have a shader on there. So the first thing you'll need to do, and I'll start from scratch because I don't need to keep this one. So right click over it and go ahead and add a new material. And we're going to add a Arnold shader. And we want an AI standard surface. Alright, so now we're going to add all the attributes. Okay, so the base color goes under color. So we need to make sure you're under base, okay, not specular, base, and turn the base weight up to 1. Okay? What we're going to do now is we're going to go into color, okay? Click on color. And we're going to go right down the line here so you know exactly where all these textures go. So under 2D textures, you're going to click on File. You're going to turn off filter type to off. And you're going to click on and find your texture. Now it's a large texture. Okay. So here, oh, that's not my metal, but it says metal on there. So here's my brick. Okay, I want my metal, so I'm going to go back up to my desktop and find my base. There it is. So my base color for my metal. So ground plane metal SG base color PNG. So I'm going to click on OK. All right. There's nothing you really need to do. It takes a while for you to see it. If you don't see it, don't worry. It's there. If you may have to hit the 6 key to see it. Okay. Sometimes you guys forget about the 6 key. So the 6 key lets you see texturing. It's kind of the same thing as going into shading and then going to hardware texturing, right? Same thing. All right, so there's my texture. Awesome. Cool. Right? So what I want to do is I want to turn off the grid so I don't see that grid. I can kind of see through it. So everything's good so far. So go back to my A standard surface. It's going to be very, very shiny. We're going to plug in the metalness. Okay, so that's really important, metalness. So right now it would reflect everything in the scene. That means the rust too, and that's not what I want. So it's really important we have a map that takes us through and tells Maya which part of the image needs to be reflective and which is not. So let's go into that and click off, and then we're going to go in here to, and it turns black. And then we're going to click on my metallic PNG. Okay. All right, give it some time to load up. The color space needs to be raw. Okay, we're going to start adding some things here. So it needs to be raw, so we need to find raw. Okay, so when we do that, basically it's going to see it as a raw image. And that's fine. That's what we need. And so we're going to go back out. We're going to continue adding these maps to this. So the next thing is the roughness. So we got the diffuse. We have the metallic. Metallic goes under metalness. Okay, and we set it to raw. Now we need to go to roughness. Okay, click on the option box here to roughness. Okay, and so we're going to go down to File. All right, now the image changed again. Okay, and here we're going to go to make sure filter type is off, and we're going to go ahead and click on that, and now we're going to click on roughness. Now that's what that map looks like. Okay, now the white means we're going to have more reflectiveness, more glossiness, more specularity, and the black or the darker is going to be less specularity. Obviously, rust, kind of oxidized paint, is not shiny. So that's what that basically means. So I'm going to click on that, open that up. Okay, once that opens up, you have to give it some time. It takes time. It's a 48 megabyte texture. That's large. And then under color space, that will also be a raw. Okay, under color space, select raw. And then we got one more spot we need to select under color balance. Under color balance, you need to click on alpha is luminance. You only do that for the roughness map. Okay? You only need to do that for the roughness map. Alpha is luminance. Make sure that's selected. You don't have to do anything else in here. Okay? So I'm going to keep that open because a lot of times when I open up my normal map, that's still check marked. So I got to make sure that's not check marked for normal maps. So I'm going to go back out. So you can see that I'm clicking out, in and out, right? So now I'm back out. So I got 3 maps: the color map, diffuse, metallic goes under metalness. You have to select raw on that one. Roughness, you have your roughness map, and you select raw, and you got to click on show as luminance. The next thing we got going on is our geometry. So we're using 4 maps, which is a lot. Now you could have a lot more maps than this. If we had an opacity map, we'd put it in here, okay? But we don't. But we do have a normal map, which goes under bump mapping. So we're going to click on that option box, go to 2D textures, click on file, and then under use map bump, click on tangent space normals. Okay, tangent space normals. Use as tangent space normals. I've taken you through that before. If you just have a black and white or grayscale bump map, you would just click on bump. But if you have a normal map, okay, which is RGB, it looks blue color, click on tangent space normals, and then click next to the arrow, or click on the arrow under bump value. Now this is where we can pump in the actual image. So we're going to click off filter type, and we're going to click on the folder, and we're going to click on normal. It looks like there's nothing in there, but there is. There's information there. So click on open. Alright, cool. That's going to turn black again until I do this. I'm going to go to, once that's set up, then I'm going to go into RGB, color space, and set it to raw. That also needs to be raw. Now notice if I scroll down, alpha is luminance again. We have to turn that off. Okay, it gets stuck on there. I don't know why. I think it might be some kind of a little bit of a, I don't know, a problem with coding. But anyway, so we've got a little bit of a problem. It's kind of gets stuck on there. So make sure you turn that off on. If you get caught, you may not see your normal map. Okay, so just remember you got to turn that off for normal maps. And we're done. This is the entire. It looks terrible, but let's see what it looks like when we render it. So when I go back out of here, you can see I can go back out again. Okay. All right. So now you see everything we have in here. We also can see it in when we go into the hypershade. This little guy right here. Cool. So you can see it right now, right there. It's not represented very well. Okay. And that's all right. It's not being represented very well in the preview here. But let's go ahead and close that. But that's where it is. You can also see it right here. I don't think we changed it right there. That's what it looks like right here. So let's take a look. Let's kind of bring it back out a little bit, and let's check it out. Let's go ahead and do a preview render and see how it looks. It takes a while. It's got to go through all those maps, so it takes a little more time when you do PBR. That's what we got so far. Now that's a flat image. It's not a round object. Okay, so you might have to make some adjustments to the lighting, or put it on a sphere or something like that, because right now I'd have to mess around with the lighting and stuff. But what's cool is all those attributes are now playing into this scene, and you can see that I've got this. You can see that the metal is reflecting that bottle, and where it's not reflecting is the rust. Isn't that cool? So if I would have kept it as is, it would not reflect that. You can see that it's reflecting that bottle because I can see the green in that object. Okay, so that's awesome. That looks great. So let's turn that off. Another thing to make this more realistic is to actually bring in an HDR image, right? So I'll show you how to do that. So let me do something that's not very big. So I've got a 8K HDR image, and let's take a look at what it looks like. Okay, I'm going to bring that in. That's under HDR Haven, right? HDR Haven, I found these. Okay, So afternoon, right? So let's do that one just for fun and see what it looks like. So I'm going to take this guy and copy it and paste it. That's an 8K. That's really large, okay, for the scene. I'm going to go back in here and paste it in here, and I'll show you how to add that into your scene. Okay, source images. It's about 90 megabytes. It's reasonable. You can work with it. Now, the 16K is about 800 megabytes. It's huge, and they're very hard to deal with. So I try not to go much higher than that. So select this. Okay, so how do you do it? So you select your sky dome, and next to color you can dump it in there. Okay, so next to color you can dump it in there, and we're going to go into file and obviously put it in off, and then image name. Let's go ahead and click on this guy right here. Oh, this one. I clicked on the wrong one. And these are big files. These are 100 megabyte files, so it's trying to search for it. That's kind of cool. I'm going to go to the Kiara afternoon, 6 afternoon. Give it some time here. That's a totally sunny day, and you can check it out too if you want to. They've got all kinds of stuff in there. So I'm going to put in, I'm still waiting for it to see it. Wait for it, wait for it. Once it sees it, I don't want to crash right now. Okay. I think I'm okay opening it, maybe. I don't want to lock it up. So I'll go ahead and open it up. And it'll take a while for it to load up in here. Once it loads up in here, then we can see it. We'll be able to see the texture. There it is, and it's loaded up. That's cool. All right, cool. So the texture's loaded up. I can actually zoom out. Check it out. There you go. And that's what this looks like. All right, there's the sun. The sun's coming in from that direction, so that means I need to set up my directional light to mimic that. I think I'm pretty close, right? I mean, if I take this, and this is what I usually do, guys. I go ahead and scale this up so I can see it compared to where the light is. You can see how I can match that lighting up pretty good. So I'm going to go ahead and rotate this and rotate it around and kind of get it set up. You can see how I'm setting it up to that light. Okay, so when we do outdoor lighting, this is how we'll set it up. So now I got that set up to match. So let's look at this scene. Okay, so if the light's coming from this direction, let's look at the scene from right here where the light is actually shining on that object. I'm going to turn off or make my directional light smaller again so I can easily see it. There we go, so that's better. Make it a little bit smaller. Okay, like it was before. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to turn it off. Okay, so I'm going to turn off illuminance by default. So right now I've got everything selected. All I'm doing is turning it off so I can see what the sky is doing to my scene. Let's just take a look. I'm going to do a full render. Okay, do a full render at a very low resolution. So it shouldn't take long. So there we go. Okay, now we can't see the outside of it. Let's take a look and see what's going on here. I think I turned that off. Yeah, I did. So I'm going to turn that back on again so we can see it. And I'm also going to turn off this, use temperature, right? So if what I told it before is that with use temperature on, I'm taking the HDRI off, okay? So basically we got to render like we did before. So you got to turn that color temperature off because that'll negate the HDR image. So now I'm going to render this out again, and we should see the full beautiful effect of the HDR rendering and the PBR texturing on the ground, on the metal part. So what's it waiting for? Let's see. I guess this just takes a little bit of time. There we go. Cool. Here it is. Wow, look at that. Yeah. So it's a little dark, right? Okay, so that's cool. But we're getting some really cool stuff going on here. And we're able to see the reflection of the bottle. I got a little click happy here, so it's going to render it twice. All right, cool. Awesome. Looks good. All right, so what we're